Hi guys, thank you so much for viewing my previous video in which I described an overview of the Pearson Test of English academic examination, and I hope you remember that I had also committed that I would make more task specific videos. So today I am here describing read aloud section. I'm trying to give some tips and tricks that will help you in the read aloud section. So let's move on. Let's try to understand that what the read aloud section exactly is. Now in the read aloud section, this is the first section of your PT academic exam. So once you start the exam, you get a tutorial where you can check your mic and your headset, and then you give an introduction of yourself. Once you finish with the introduction, your speaking module starts, and within the speaking module, the first section is the read aloud section. In the read aloud section, you will have around 6 to 7 questions, and for each of these questions, you will have around 20 seconds preparation time and 40 seconds performance time. Now, many people think that this is very simple, so they generally take it for granted. But trust me, this section carries a lot of weight, both in your reading and in your speaking. So don't take it for granted. Try to perform this section with utmost care. If you can perform this section with utmost care, there is a guarantee that you'll surely score at least 65 plus in both your speaking and reading. Read each and every word very precisely. Don't add or subtract words from the passages. Don't add fillers like etc. And don't remove any word from the passage. Especially, I have seen many people, they struggle with the articles. They just skip the articles. Don't skip any article. Especially take care of the articles and the. Yeah, sometimes there can be a possibility that there is a word which is very tough to pronounce. It's okay if you skip it, but don't skip the articles. Let's do some analysis. In 6 to 7 passages that you get, there could be one or maximum two words which you can't pronounce. It would be very tough. If you skip those two words, that's okay. But if in every passage you're skipping one or two articles, that means you're almost skipping 6 to 14 words in your whole read aloud section, which is very dangerous for you. So try not to skip the articles, focus on them. The next hint is that try to complete your read aloud passage within 3 by 4th of the time that is given to you. So for example, if 40 seconds is your performance time, try to finish the passage within 25 to 30 seconds. Now I'm telling you this because in every read aloud question you have 3 to 4 sentences, and at an average every human being takes around 25 to 30 seconds to say 3 to 4 sentences. If you're using more than 30 seconds to say 3 to 4 sentences, that means there's something wrong with your oral fluency. You see, PT is not being judged by a person. PT is being judged by an algorithm, a computer algorithm. So the algorithm has been made in such a way that if you use more than 30 seconds, then naturally your oral fluency goes down, with which your speaking scores go down. So try to use only 3 by 4th of the time. Now the next is use the preparation time, that is the 15 to 20 seconds that you get to prepare each paragraph. Use it very, very, very wisely. Don't look around, don't waste your time, just focus on the paragraph and use it very wisely. In my opinion and in my experience, you can easily read each passage twice in the preparation time. Right? And finally, pronunciation and fluency are the two important things that are being judged here with respect to your speaking. However, with respect to your reading, it is the content. So as I mentioned previously, don't add or subtract words from the passage. Now, I'll take you through a few passages and I'll show you how you have to perform them and give you some hints also how it can actually help you in your PT academic exam. So practice question 1. I'll just going to straight away perform it. I'm not going to go through practice. Yeah. So let's say that our practice time is over and there's a beep and we start reading. The work then on loan to the Metropolitan Museum of Modern Art suddenly vanished from the public domain. Later learning that he owed the Japanese government $24 million in taxes, Saito remarked that he would have the painting cremated with him to spare his heirs the inheritance tax. This statement, which he later dismissed as a joke, alarmed and enraged many. So as you see over here, as you heard, that I just read it very fluently. It was a little fast because I had to complete it within 25 to 30 seconds. Yeah. So that's how you have to read. Right? Now let's move on to practice question 2. I believe that if any other normal person comes into my room, he will see the same chairs and tables and books and papers as I see. and that the table which I see is the same as the table which I feel pressing against my arm. All this seems to be so evident as to be hardly worth stating, except in answer to a man who doubts whether I know anything. Now, here, if you notice, I read it little slower than how I read in practice question 1. That's okay. In each of the passages, 6 to 7 passages that you get, your oral fluency can differ in each one of them. It's not necessary that you have to keep the same oral fluency in each one of them. However, if within the same passage your oral fluency changes, then you are in deep trouble. So try not to change your oral fluency within the same passage. If you start with the speed, complete the passage with the same speed. Now let's move on to practice question 3. With regard to our working people, in the ordinary sense of the term working, the study of physics would, I imagine, be profitable not only as a means of intellectual culture but also as a moral influence to woo them from pursuits which now degrade them. A man's reformation often depends upon the indirect that upon the direct action of the will. So here, if you see, there are many commas. Now, with PTE, the thing is that I generally suggest that we should not stop at commas. The reason being that for every comma, we generally don't have a fixed amount of time of a pause. At one comma, we may stop for a certain amount of milliseconds. At the other comma, we may stop for certain another amount of milliseconds. These all things will impact our oral fluency, which will lead to a lower score in speaking. Hence, I generally suggest not to stop at the commas and continue reading. The only time you have to take a pause is at the full stop. Now let's move on to practice question 4. The rate of violent crime in this state is up 30% from last year. The fault lies entirely in our court system. Recently, our judges' sentences have been so lenient that criminals can now do almost anything without fear of a long prison term. Now, this seems pretty simple. It's a very simple paragraph. Note that certain paragraphs can be simple, certain paragraphs can be complicated, so be prepared for both. Practice question 5. Time and again, it has been shown that students who attend colleges with low faculty student ratios get the most well-rounded education. As a result, when my children are ready to attend college, I'll be sure they attend a school with a very small student population. Now here, if you notice, there is a word I'll. Now I'll is basically a short form for I will. Remember, I'll should be pronounced that as I'll, not I will. If you pronounce it as I will, you will lose marks because PTE wants to test you whether you know the short forms of these phrases. So if you don't pronounce it correctly, you lose marks both in reading and in speaking. So I hope that these 5 questions gave you some understanding, some tips and tricks of how to crack the read aloud section. If you have any queries, please feel free to contact me. This is my mail ID. And thank you so much. Please also like and comment and subscribe to my channel. Thanks.